And thanks, Maryann and Stacey and Beth. I'll let you guys introduce yourselves.
Okay, well, my name is Maryann Mori. I am the district consultant for Central District with the State Library. And I have a couple of guests with me today that I will introduce in the next slide. But just you're welcome to Collection Conversations. This is the third in a pilot series from the State Library of Iowa. And this month we are talking about mysteries and thrillers. And Samantha, I think we did tie this kind of in thinking that October is kind of a spooky month. So if I can get my slides to advance, which of course it's been a day for technology troubles. Here we go. I have two guests with me, and I'm just thrilled to have them with me. They willingly jumped in and said, we would love to be part of this as my special guest, because each of the collection conversations features a special guest or two. Stacey Goodhue and Beth Schaefer are both from Carlisle Public Library, which is in Warren County here in Iowa, part of Central District. And Beth is the Adult Services Librarian. Stacey is the director, but most important, they are both avid mystery readers. And when I talked with them once, they were both saying, oh, you got to read this. No, you got to read this. Oh, I love that one. And they were already starting their discussions of mystery. So it was really fun. I'm excited to have them with me today. Welcome, both of you. Every one of these sessions, we talk about tips, tools, trends. Today, we have lots of authors and titles to share with you. Over 25 new titles that we're going to be talking about, plus some additional authors. And we also are including some promotional and programming ideas for you. And Beth and Stacey, both they're going to talk about some programs that their library is doing coming up soon. And basically what we're going to do is take the mystery out of mysteries. So I asked Beth and Stacey, what makes a good mystery? Beth, do you remember what you told me?
Yeah, I think it's where I don't know who or what, and I want to explain to me kind of at the end. I want to keep guessing the whole time, and I like it when they don't follow the same formula. Yep, I wrote it down so that I would remember. I like when they don't follow the same formula. They change it up every book.
And that was interesting because some of the subgenres that we'll be talking about in a moment, they are very formulaic, but not all mysteries are that way. And then Stacey, why do you like what do you like in a good mystery?
I read mystery when I want to escape. So I want something that is fast paced and has a good twist. I want to just be able to sit down and bust through it in the weekend and not even think about anything else. And I love twists where they're kind of at the beginning and then they kind of sneak in at the end and you're all confused. It makes you want to go back and reread it.
That's interesting to hear you say that you want to go back and reread it, because my husband is an avid mystery reader. He reads a lot of nonfiction, but the only kind of fiction he ever reads is mystery. And he's constantly got these mystery books, and he's always flipping through the pages and writing things down. And I'll say, what are you doing? I'm writing down the clues. And so my husband is Japanese, and so he only reads these books in Japanese. And his view of mysteries is that if the harder they are, the better they are. So that he likes that fact that you have to go back and reread the sections because maybe there was a clue that you missed. And in fact, he told me the book he's reading right now is so complicated that he has gone back and completely started over. I said, oh my goodness, I don't know if I would have the time for that. But to him, that's the challenge. It's like a hugely challenging puzzle. And he was telling me about some of the Japanese books where the ending is actually sealed. So there's no way to flip to the back of the book and see what happens. Like I've heard some people like to do with mysteries. You actually have to cut the pages to see what happens. And this is a list of some of the books published by his favorite author. I just put up there for fun so you can see how many have been published, but he's really a fan of these mansion murder series. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. Subgenres. There were several that Beth and Stacey pointed out, and we're going to talk about each of these. And Beth and Stacey, chime in if you want to comment on cozy mysteries. I think a lot of libraries circulate quite a few of these.
We have quite a few, and some of these can get really long, so they have a lot in the series. So I've had to cut back a little bit on those. I find that they're really nice and easy read. They're light, and there's nothing that's going to be too graphic. So I actually also recommend these to those patrons who want to read light mystery, light Christian fiction. I'll be able to send them over to this for something a little bit different too.
Okay. I am not a mystery reader typically, but I have to say I did listen via audiobook to the Alan Bradley series, or at least started it, got through about the first 3. And I liked it because the narrator was so good. His series is known as the Flavia Deluce series. So if you want a good, fun audiobook, that's a good one. What about police procedurals?
That's mostly you.
Yeah, a lot of police procedurals, they're going to be those really long series. They tend to be, in my opinion. James Patterson, he has like a women's murder mystery club. They're usually pretty formulaic. The person, gets involved in the mystery somehow, like an episode of Criminal Minds, sort of, and just follows it all the way through. So,
And yeah, you're right. These can get very long. I just had a new director orientation with a new director at a library who said, seriously, I've got over 3 shelves of James Patterson, and this was a tiny library. Do I have to keep every single one of these? So we talked about that series, and we've got a slide where we'll talk about how that is challenging for smaller locations to house all of the long series. And Beth and Stacey, you got some tips later on how you're dealing with that. What about suspense? I think, Stacey, this is kind of the area you like, isn't it? Although you like
Right.
fast-paced
Yeah,
suspense.
I like suspense and thriller. So these are kind of ones that you have to keep reading because you want to know what's happening, but it's kind of a slow build up to find out what's going on, and then at the end it kind of keeps going really fast to keep you guessing throughout. They've got to usually have this. Some of them have the same characters. Some of them are standalones. Big Little Lies is a very good example of something that's really popular right now.
And then we have thrillers, which are different than horror books, not to be confused, although maybe there's some overlap between the two. But how do thrillers fit in here with mystery?
Thrillers are definitely going to be a little bit faster paced. I think there can definitely be a lot of overlap between suspense and thriller, though. So something might be suspense and thriller, but a lot of times it's going to have faster stuff going on. There might be more action happening within it, and it's usually against the protagonist. It's not like a huge situation. It's like against one person often.
I know that when we were talking, preparing for this, Beth, you couldn't say enough good things about this book on the screen here, Survive the Night by Riley Sager.
I really liked it. It was something, it threw me for a loop. I like Riley Sager's work in general, but this one, his newest one, was definitely super good. Kept me guessing until the very end, which is what I loved. So
yeah, good. And then there's actually a nonfiction version of mystery that's known as true crime. And I put the Dewey Decimal number up there for you. These are, as I said, nonfiction, which happened to be the genre we talked about in the last collection conversations. But these are usually very factual books that describe crime, and it adds additional information. They're always well researched. So this would be a way to snare someone like me. I like to read nonfiction into the mystery genre. Anything else you want to say about these? This one?
James Patterson has infiltrated it. He started writing true crime as well. So they're really good. I think a lot of times true crime also tends to deep dive more than just the crime. They actually go into a lot of times the locations and the families and the victims and go a lot more in depth, and you find out who yeah, I don't know what he hasn't infiltrated.
No,
but
you have a library just of
so.
James Patterson.
He's out to get the 4th shelf at that one library.
Yeah.
So I asked you for some must-have authors, and these were ones you sent me that you have on order at your library. And I'm sure a lot of these names are very familiar. Even if you don't read mystery, you surely know these author names and probably have lots of books on the shelf at your library with these authors. Anything you want to say about these upcoming titles or the authors?
These are the ones that I automatically have to have on order because I've got patrons who absolutely have to have the next Cussler or have to have, of course, the next Janet Ivanovich. So there's no question in my library that even if I'm trying to bring in something else a little bit, we've got to have these next ones that are pretty much always in a series.
Yeah, and this is a good time or good authors, I guess I should say, to have as a standing order with your book jobber so that you don't have to always be aware of, okay, what's coming out next from David Baldacci. You just put it on a standing order and you know you're automatically going to get it.
That's what we do.
Mm-hmm. So what's new? We've got a lot and we're going to zip through these very, very quickly. This one actually came out in June, so it's not so new, but I wanted to mention it because I just learned about it in a webinar I recently attended about mystery books. And it kind of intrigued me because it's set in Iowa, but then they travel to London, and I love London and I like Iowa. I love Iowa. This is by an author named Barbara Allen, which is a pen name for a husband and wife duo. It is part of a series, and it has already been released, but this is one of those cozy mysteries that adds some comedy to it. So I think this would probably appeal to a lot of patrons at any of our libraries. And one of the webinars I attended from Booklist, one of the publishers had this. So lots and lots of cozy mysteries are published, coming out either recently or some actually just last week. So plenty of cozy mystery titles and series. This one I wanted to mention coming out in January is from a debut author, and it's recommended for fans of The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime or fans of the Thursday Murder Club books. So I wanted to mention that. And it's neat to have a debut author too, somebody to say, hey, have you thought of trying somebody new? This is a screenshot of one of the presenters at a Booklist webinar that I just attended this week, actually. So I wanted to share this as an example. If you attend some of these webinars, you're going to hear from multiple publishers. This happened to be from Decagon House, which is a big publisher of mysteries. And there were several different publishers there presenting. So you're hearing from a variety of people by a variety of publishers and the new books that they're coming out with, this one being published in February 1st. And I thought it sounded like a fun book. Anybody who appreciates a good mystery told with a nimble, sure-footed humor will have a ball. I like the fact that they're bringing in some humor along with those cozy mystery types. Another cozy mystery series, Nashville Mystery Series. This one again is a cozy mystery with some humor, and it includes a female sleuth. So again, coming out of Decagon House. This one, notice how they spell prose in the picture. It's obviously a literary title. It has a literary twist, it says. And this one is coming out in December. December 7th is a big date for a lot of titles are coming out on that. And so while I saw this one, I thought, oh, I got to start mentioning these other library mysteries. Here's a historical mystery. This one's already available. It came out in July, but I wanted to mention it because, hey, it's in the library, right? And if you don't have this one, you should. I don't know. Has anybody read this one yet?
I haven't read that one, but I have to say that a lot of cozies are either in a bookstore or in a library or in a restaurant, or animals. Those are the three.
Animals are always solving it.
Always animals. Yeah, or there's usually some sort of library or book related thing in a lot of these.
A lot of people who knit as well.
Oh yeah, knitting.
So this is the second in a series. So if you don't already have the first one, maybe you would want to think about ordering these two as a set. Another one, I just like the title of this one, The Department of Rare Books and Special Collections. It already has that mysterious aura to it. Kirkus Review says, this is a Valentine to librarians that doesn't shy away from their dark side. So I don't know. We librarians have a dark side. That's a little scary to think about in and of itself. This one's coming out January 25th from Poison Pen Press, which is a very notable mystery publisher. And then this one isn't coming out until June, again from Poison Pen Twist, but this one is set in the Boston Public Library, and it is an unexpectedly twisty literary adventure that examines the complicated nature of friendship and shows us that words can be the most treacherous weapons of all. A librarian reviewer on Library Read said, "Holy moly, it's a devour in one sitting or as soon as humanly possible." That was a review from a librarian for librarians. So there you go. We talked about police procedurals. This is the 7th in a series, Timber Creek Canine Mystery Series. So It's not a cozy mystery, but it does have a dog in it. This is a starred review from Library Journal, and it was just released in September from Crooked Lane Books. Has anyone read this series or any tips about this? Anybody in the audience trying to keep...
Taylor Donnelly said it's that's the most popular series right now. That author. I haven't heard of it.
This was recommended for fans of CJ Box, who I know is a very popular author. So if you've got CJ Box fans, you might want to think about this author, Margaret Mizushima. And by Barbara Fradkin, The Devil to Pay, another police procedural. This again is part of a series. This is number 11. This one is recommended for fans of Louise Penny, who is a very, very popular mystery author. This one coming out next month from Dundurn Press. A suspense thriller. This one you can see is a spine-tingling twist on Celtic mythology. I think that sounds a bit intriguing, coming out next month. Anyone familiar with this one by any chance? And this one I learned about in that booklist webinar. This is one I think that Beth, you sent me as one you're recommending. A suspense coming out in December.
It's on our Ingram list. So
yeah. I don't remember anything about it. I don't know if you had something about it. I think this author has written some other books that have proven very, very popular.
it's one of those ones that I feel like just the cover and kind of the title would definitely draw people because it follows. So.
What are you saying? We judge books by their cover?
Oh my God, no,
never. This one I learned about in a webinar. And I was intrigued by it because it has just hit the top in Denmark. The author is extremely renowned, has won multiple awards. It's been the #1 title in Denmark. And this is the first time it's been published in English. It's a star review from Kirkus, which usually means, yeah, we probably want to get that if Kirkus calls it a starred review. It is a psychological suspense, and it was just released last week through Penguin Random House. So if you want to try to maybe jazz up, diversify with some totally new international authors for your mystery collection, this would probably be a really good one. The booklist webinar said, think of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo meets Sharp Objects. And this book was an instant hit in Denmark. So there you go. Something interesting and new for your mystery lovers. I really am excited about this one because you can see the subtitle there, A Chilling Anthology of Crime Fiction from 20 Authors of Color. This is a starred review from Publishers Weekly. It's coming out very soon on November 9th from Crooked Lane Books through Penguin House. So it is a collection of stories. It offers a thrilling selection written by and about people of color that will keep you reading until well past the dead of night, says one reviewer. There again, if you want to mix up your mystery collection and add some diverse authors, that would be a good one to add. Lisa Jewell, the email notification I got about this book coming out said, "Rejoice, thriller lovers, our queen has returned." So this is
I've already read it. She is one of my all-time favorites, and I've just found her in the last year and read everything she has. And they're also really good to listen to on audio.
Ah, good to know. This one just came out in September, so if you don't have it yet, it's still a fairly new title. This is a psychological suspense. So glad to hear the good review from you, Stacey. This one, if you haven't seen the publicity on this, I'm not sure where you've been hiding because I have seen this plastered everywhere. It is getting so much buzz. Louise Penny is a very popular, well-known mystery writer. And of course, I think we all know who Hillary Rodham Clinton is. It seems maybe like an odd pairing, but as I have quoted there, this is how it's being touted as one of the most anticipated novels of the season. It is being called an international thriller. It talks about different nations taking over and interacting and ploys above and below. And it sounds intriguing, actually. But this one just came out last week. And it has been highly recommended by People Magazine, Associated Press, Time, the LA Times, Parade, the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, Publishers Weekly. So it's just getting a lot of coverage. You'll definitely want to get a
I
copy.
found it very interesting that this one is getting way more coverage and good press than the James Patterson and former President Clinton books that are out.
You're right. This is a screenshot from a webinar I attended. The speaker there is from Ocean View Publishers. And I just used this again as an example of what you can see if you attend some of these webinars that publishers provide or that Booklist provides. This person just went on and on about this book, The Necklace, which came out in September. I don't know if Beth or Stacey, are you familiar with this one?
No, but I'm writing all these down that I don't recognize.
I have heard some really good some blurbs on it and some really good press. And anything that's been optioned for a film and it's happening, then I try to get it because those are going to be automatically people are going to come in for them.
This one, it came out in September and it is already getting its second printing. And it's been optioned for a film with Leonardo DiCaprio as a producer. So yeah, you definitely want to get this one on your shelf if you don't already have it. It's already got a lot of publicity, a lot of good reviews from prominent authors. So try to get this one. This one is a mystery detective book with an LBGTQ theme, and it is by a debut author coming out in February. So here again, if you want to add some diversity to your mystery collection, this would be a good one. The Booklist webinar speaker from the publishing company said, for anyone looking for the classic pleasures of a detective romp, but from a queer, racially diverse perspective. This one, Stacey and Beth, I'll let you talk about this one.
Well, she is my all-time favorite author, but Beth has more exciting news about her, so I won't take it.
Stacey does really love Heather Gudenkoff. Heather Gudenkoff is a local Iowa author. I believe she lives somewhere around Decorah, I'm pretty sure. And she writes a lot of murder mysteries set in typically fictional towns in Iowa. And our book club is going to be discussing This Is How I Lied by Heather Gudenkoff in December. And she is actually joining us on Zoom. So anybody is welcome to come. We will surely send a link out if you would like one.
Yeah, that's exciting.
If you've also been to the, she's been a featured speaker at the Iowa Library Association a couple of times in the past few years, and she loves librarians.
Mm-hmm. This is coming out in January. She is the author of 8 novels and an Edgar Award nominee, and the Edgar Awards go to mystery writers. So she writes thrillers. I think all of her novels are classified as thrillers, correct?
Yes, I would classify them that way.
Yeah. This is one that Carlisle has on their order, which is a novel that reads like true crime. Any comments about this one, Beth or Stacey?
So I found this one and I actually found another one, and they are both about, I can't remember the other title, but they're both coming out around December about people who have gone missing, turned into a cold case, and a podcast or someone else is revisiting the case. And so that's a little bit different than what I think a lot of mysteries and thrillers coming out are about. Normally they're like in the action, which I'm sure they're going to make the action, but the revisiting is just a little different than a traditional thriller, I think.
This one coming out in December, so not too far from now. This one I heard about on a webinar. This is true crime, so it is a nonfiction, and you can see that the subtitle is The Cases, the Killers, and the Controversial Confessions. Publishers Weekly says this is a nuanced account that is essential reading for true crime buffs and anyone interested in the ethical and moral sides of policing and justice. And the publishers webinar slide talked in the webinar that I saw said over 100 people got away with murder until an undercover police officer tricked them into confessing. And so this is looking at the somewhat controversial technique that was developed in how they get these big name killers to confess. Sometimes they make false confessions because the people investigating them are preying on their pride and their ego. So it sounded intriguing. I think I could be convinced to read this one. And the person who was reviewing it said, I learned so much. So again, it's talking about the ethical and moral sides of policing and justice. So I think it could be a very timely title. It was just published in September. So if you don't have this one yet, you can get it through ECW Press. This is one that Carlisle has on order. And again, this is true crime. It is a starred review from Publishers Weekly. Just came out this month. Beth and Stacey, have you taken a look at this one yet, or?
Not too closely. I can't even remember what it's about right now because I threw it on my list and then sent it to you, but it looked interesting and it stood out to me, which is why I put it on there. So
well, this when I read this, you're going to think that's true, but it introduces the reader to the story of a murder in the crumbling Louisville mansion and the decades of secrets and corruption that live within the old house's walls. That sounds like a fiction, but it's not. It's true. And from an Amazon review, it says on June 18th, 2010, police discovered a body buried in the wine cellar of a Victorian mansion in Old Louisville. James Carroll was the man shot and stabbed the year before, had lain for 7 months in a plastic storage bin, which was his temporary coffin. Ooh.
Wow.
now we see why I put it in there. And
Yeah.
I think they thought it was a gay love triangle or something is how they described it.
Yeah.
I don't know if they called it the pink triangle murder.
Right.
I don't know if I like that, but
yeah. So there's going to be some tense moments in this one, I'm sure, but it is true crime. So might keep you up at night. This one Carlisle has on order. I thought it was interesting because it's all revolving around the theme of climate change.
We have a few different books that revolve around climate change, and some of them are sci-fi, but this one actually is bringing in the mystery side of it. So I am very excited to read this one, as it's a really, important and big topic right now, and see how they tie it in.
Right,
the other person that I find that does that is Clive Cussler, and he's got so many books, but sometimes he's got some really interesting ones that have to do with climate as well.
And I just realized I'm not actually saying the titles as we're going through these, but this is Termination Shock by Neil Stevenson, who is already a New York Times bestselling author. This one coming out on November 16th. Miss Moriarty, I presume, and I presume I pronounced that correctly. This is book 6 of 6. So, hey, it's a short series, the Lady Sherlock series, coming out in November, the 6th edition of this historical mystery. And Carlisle has this on their list, so I assume you have the first 5.
I actually don't know. I didn't look that much, but
all right.
Well, if we get
Sometimes
book
I just
6,
throw
we're
them in.
gonna. If we get book 6, we're gonna have to go back and get 1 through 5.
Right.
People won't.
Sometimes I get excited.
But this one definitely has some cover appeal to it, I think.
Yeah, and it's a Sherlock, so it's going to be that traditional detective novel. So some people really like that. So.
Yeah. This is nonfiction that should appeal to mystery readers. Carlisle, you've got this on order. This again, I found intriguing. The Amazon review says that it's a vivid behind-the-scenes look into the creation of the FBI's Behavioral Science Unit and the evolution of criminal profiling. It's written by a pioneering forensic nurse who transformed the way the FBI studies, profiles, and catches serial killers. Very, very interesting.
So I think some of these would be great to put on a display of new, and you can match it with older ones as well. That true crime. There are a lot of people who gravitate to it if they see covers and they see something like that.
Right.
So that'd be a good one.
And keep in mind that true crime can appeal to your regular mystery readers as well as to your avid nonfiction fans. So it's got a lot of crossover there. This book is basically delving into the question of what drives someone to kill and how can we stop them. I had to put this one in because as my husband was talking about his favorite author and what he likes about his Japanese mysteries, I realized that this one has actually just been released in English in May of this year. And he said this is one of his all-time favorites from this Mansion series by Yukito Ayatsui. and it's called the Decagon House Murders. And I know Japanese culture is wildly popular among a lot of younger people, so this might be something to consider for your collection. It's available from Pushkin Vertical, and my husband says about it, the ending is extremely surprising. I never guessed it. So let's talk a little bit about some space considerations. I mentioned about the very small library with 3 overflowing shelves of James Patterson and more to come. So Stacey and Beth, you had some interesting ideas about whether or not to even have series.
So we've got like, as we had on our standing order, we've got some mystery series and authors that just are prolific, and they bring them so many times throughout the year, and we can't keep up. So I've had to cut back. Usually if I can keep it, I'll keep like 1 through 10, and then interlibrary loan will come in for those other ones. There are some series that I know people will go back and read again, so I will keep the whole thing. But right now I've been focused on debut authors and standalones, so that I can bring in something new and fresh, but that it doesn't have to take up 3 shelves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was one reason why I did try to bring in a few of those slides that we talked about debut authors, so that you can try them out and see. So it's interesting, you mentioned that you keep, for instance, 1 through 10 of a series. So does that mean you're not buying the new ones coming out? And
some of them I don't. On some of them, I know that we will keep them for a while, and then after those circs go down, we will take it out again. It just depends on the author. Like, for instance, I've stopped purchasing everything new that's Jeffrey Deaver, because I don't have as many who want to read him. But if it's the new Cussler, I have to keep it. So it just depends on what your actual patrons are checking out.
Absolutely. And that was just what I was about to say, is you have got to know your community. You've got to know your readers. I know I have heard from some libraries that will keep the more recent publishings of a series and not have the early ones, because those are the ones they say they go back and get through interlibrary loan for anybody that might want to start it, but they keep up with a series for their avid fans of whatever that particular series is. But those are just some considerations and things for all of you to think about at your library. If space is a problem, definitely take advantage of interlibrary loan. It's so easy to do now, especially with the Iowa Shares delivery service. Anything else the 2 of you want to say about this?
I think to explain the 1 through 10 maybe is because we know that people will then, if they want to go and start the series, and if they make it all the way through 10 books and they want to keep going, that's easier. And then at least here at Carlisle, because of the Iowa Shares, we were able to eliminate our fee for interlibrary loan. So now we can provide these things for free. So we don't feel so bad offering that as kind of like our alternative, because we're not like, yeah, I can totally get you, 11 through 20 for $1 each or whatever, it's like, I'll get you, each of your books, and it's going to be totally free. And it kind of takes that pressure off the patron to decide if they want to pay money or not to continue reading that series.
Right. Samantha, I'm just going to mention I'm not able to keep an eye on the chat too well. And so if anybody's making any comments about anything as we're going along, feel free to jump in with that. Resources. We have several here. Many of these are ones you've seen us mention in the other presentations of this collection conversation series. If you joined us for the previous 2, book list is definitely a must-have. If you don't utilize book list, I think you're missing out. And book list, if you're not familiar with it, they do make a hard copy little magazine type, newspaperish magazine that you can purchase as a subscription, and you get numerous copies that you can put on display and have your patrons pick those up. And they have all different genre and types of books that they review, not just adult titles, but kids and teens as well, audiobooks, etc. So that's a great thing. And if it's a little pricey for you to purchase it for your library on your own, or you could never use as many copies as they would send you, this is something you might want to partner with the other libraries in your county and get one big subscription and then divvy it out to your libraries. But I've always liked Booklist. Anytime I had anything to do with collection development, I've always utilized Booklist. Your patrons will like it too. Edelweiss and NetGalley are ways for you to get the advanced reader copies. In the day back when, you would get these advanced reader copies, or ARCs as they're known, as a physical hard copy. And now that's all done online. You just complete a registration at these organizations, and then you can choose which of the books you want to receive as an advanced reader, and you can get those. Library Reads is always a good source because that is a review source for librarians that is done by librarians. So you're hearing what other librarians have to say. And I did quote one of those librarians on that one title that we shared earlier. Amazon's always a fun place to go for patron reviews as well as professional reviews. And talk to your mystery patron readers, the ones who like to read mystery. They're going to be a good source for you. And then jumping back up to the top, this cozy mystery blog is something, if you're trying to sift through all those countless series of dogs and knitters and recipes in cozy mysteries, that can be a good resource. Beth and Stacey, any additional ones maybe that we forgot to put on here that you want to make note of?
I love Goodreads
Mm-hmm.
personally, especially if there's say a debut author. I like to see the people who've been reading the ARCs actually and see what they say. If they say it's, really good, or if it's poorly written or whatever, and then I know maybe we aren't going to try it out on this person.
Mm-hmm.
I use Goodreads. I use Amazon. One I didn't think of until just recently is that Reese Witherspoon also has a book club, and she puts some really diverse novels on there, but some of them are really good mysteries. And since she's a big name and popular right now, a lot of people are picking them up. That doesn't mean that they're great quality, but you do need to research on them. But I found a lot of them from her as well.
Okay. Let's shift gears here and talk a little bit about programming ideas and promotion of your mystery titles. And Beth, you're going to tell us all about Breakout Boxes.
Yes, I love breakoutedu.com. They have escape rooms created it's primarily like a teacher resource, but they have escape rooms created by other people that you can just use. You can do these digitally, you can do them physically with an actual breakout box kit that you would order. And what we're going to try this time, partially because it's October and it's just kind of spooky, is we're doing a haunted hotel, Hollywood Hills Hotel breakout box. People can drop by, or I'm going to do take-home kits that they can register for. And that is kind of, I'm copying the Hunt a Killer subscription box, basically, and sending that home. So that's something that gets mailed to your house and you get to solve the clues and find the killer. So I'm kind of taking that and packaging it up with a Breakout EDU already created kit and sending it home. So that's something pretty easy to send out to our patrons.
And just in case somebody's not overly familiar with what an escape room is, just give us an overview of what that means.
Yeah, an escape room would basically be you have a lot of clues hidden around your room, or even sometimes obvious around your room, and you have to try and solve them. A lot of the time they're not super obvious. You're not going to see everything that's like, hey, your password's 1, 2, 3, 4. You're just going to start maybe finding a lot of numbers, and you're like, this makes sense. Like, I have a number lock. Now I need to figure out what order they go in. And then eventually, in the case of Breakout EDU, eventually you unlock all of the locks. In an actual escape room, you would escape the room, the physical room. So
we started doing these a lot with our 4th and 5th grade age group. And of course, you can't lock children in a library. So this by letting them work through the clues and open all of the keys or all of the locks that are on the box, they still have that escaping.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And this one, you haven't noted that it's for adults, or a family could participate. So
yeah, absolutely. It's a little harder. The topic is a little scarier. There's a clue-like game within it. And so definitely maybe not something for like small children. It's going to kind of go over their heads a little bit. So I always indicate if a family could complete it together or not.
And before we started this presentation today, you were telling me that your library is decorating for a community celebration. So your library is already looking kind of spooky, and I assume that kind of helps tie in with what you're doing on the 26th here too.
Right, absolutely. So this is kind of more of the adult focus, and then we have a not so spooky room tomorrow where we actually cover up the stacks, and they, weave in and out to get through the end of the spooky room, and then of course they get candy as their as their reward. We actually close the library until 1 o'clock and spend all day decorating. So not a good day to come and search for your favorite author tomorrow. You're not going to find it, but it's really fun. We get, 300 kids coming through.
That's a lot, especially in a library the size of yours. That's a lot of people to
it is
through there. There are a lot of libraries that host book clubs that are specifically for mystery lovers. Perry Library here in Iowa does this, and they're doing it virtually right now. But they routinely have a book club that's for mystery readers. Coralville does the exact same thing here in Iowa. Their mystery book group. I think they all tell you what the title is in advance, so they don't keep that a mystery, but it's for mystery lovers. So consider that as a program if you don't already have such a group. This is coming out of Old Town, Maine. They have 2 mystery book clubs, and you can read about that on their blogspot up there, the link that I have. Bridges, which I think most all of our libraries have now, just announced their next big library read title, and it happens to be a mystery. And this will run from November 1st through the 15th. So you may want to publicize this a lot, especially to the mystery lovers in your community. You can see that it is a page-turning thriller that will keep readers guessing until the very end. I don't know if anybody has read this one yet, but a good mystery to promote to your mystery lovers and to your online readers.
And is it good for teens as well? Because I see if it was reviewed by School Library Journal, that makes me wonder if it's more of a teen focus.
I haven't explored this that much, but I would assume, at least for older teens, it would definitely be appropriate. I know maybe you might want to look at it before you start touting it to your tweens, but even some of them would probably really love this. There again, you need to know your community, but check this out. There's more information available through Bridges, and I believe this is done that it is multiple copies available. So. Hosting a library mystery. A lot of libraries have done this in the past, not so much last year, but we have this book available in the State Library Professional Development Collection. So you can access this book through interlibrary loan, or you can also purchase it from the American Library Association. But this is where you host like a murder mystery program in your library. And I have heard of libraries doing this. Oh, there was one smaller library that did it with a hot dog meal, and it was a fundraising event, and people purchased tickets and they would come and get this simple hot dog meal. But then there was a murder that happened in the library while they were there, and they had to solve who the murderer was and find the clues, etc. So if you want to learn how to do that type of program for your library, this is a book that's all about doing that. There was also an article published on April 2nd by Library Journal, and you can see the title there. It's about taking those murder mysteries virtually. This was a fairly extensive article that had a lot of good information in it. And you can purchase package programs, and there was information in this article about how to do that. Or there are some librarians that have gotten creative and they've actually created their own program. So do check out that link to the article. We'll have that available with our resources after the presentation. This is a webinar coming from Florida Library Webinars, it's called. And this one is still available. I just checked yesterday. You can just click the link and you can access this without any charge, without any pre-registration, but it is all about crime fiction fan programs that will appeal to those people. So definitely look at this. The webinar is there and the handout is available. This was just presented in June of this year, so it should be pretty relevant information. This collection conversation started because our former youth services consultant, Angie Manfredi, had been reviewing children's books. And we got requests to, hey, do some adult reviews too, because we want to know what to buy for our adult collections. So we at the State Library said, okay, we'll do this as a 3-part pilot and see how it goes. So, I have a tickle in my throat. We started the series in June with romance novels, and this recording has been posted to our YouTube page. I will forewarn you, if you click on it, you'll get a little warning that says it includes some adult content. Don't let that scare you. It's still legit. You can click on it and watch it. But we started with romance novels, which was a lot of fun. We then went to nonfiction, which I enjoyed. Each of these had special guest presenters with us. We did romance novels in June, and then in August, we talked about nonfiction beyond the cookbooks for your collection, and included some programming ideas in these as well. And now today, this is the third in our pilot series talking about the mysteries and thrillers. So this actually concludes our pilot. The continuing ed committee at the State Library will be evaluating and seeing if we are going to continue this. So your evaluations of the series are very important for us. And I see that Evan has a hand raised. Evan, did you have a question? I don't think we have mic opportunities here, do we?
We can. Chat would be preferred, but Evan, if you do want to drop in the chat, if you want us to unmute you, we can do that. I might have missed it. I did have to step away for a second, but when we were talking about shelving, we did have a question come through. When we're shelving, do we separate mystery? All right, we have a separate mystery series, and sometimes hard to decide where to put some of these books. We have Leanne Moriarty in regular fiction. We have Stuart Woods in mystery. Gone Girl is in mystery. Some might be called horror. Then they're in the regular fiction with the horror sticker. What recommendations do you have on maybe separating some of that out or not?
So we used to do this at the library. We now have put everybody together because it did get too complicated. What I would recommend if you're going to separate them is to kind of keep some easy notes. So if you know that you want to put this author here, but they also would fit here, and keep a note of that so that you can kind of keep track back and forth. But, you know, we always say in this library that we can be wrong. We just need to be consistently wrong. So decide and stick with it.
I think that's a good tip. I have never been a fan of genre labels. I think it limits a reader's ability to discover new titles that they would otherwise overlook. And my classic example of this was when I was working in a large library system, and we did have a separate mystery section because it was huge. I'm talking enough shelves that would probably fill some of our entire libraries here in Iowa. That's how big their mystery collection was. And so it was separate. But I remember helping a patron who says, oh, I just love, and I don't even remember who the author was anymore, so-and-so, but I've read every single thing this author has written. I said, well, did you know this author also writes in a different genre? Really? I said, yeah, I bet you would like these. And the person was thrilled to learn that there were more books by this favorite author, but they weren't necessarily mystery books. And so it got the person hooked on reading a different genre from the same author that was already a favorite. So had we not had those books isolated, all of that author's works would have been together, and the person would have discovered them long before I mentioned it to her. So I just think that's one thing to think about if you're going to separate a collection. Typically, the recommendation is you don't separate a totally different collection unless you've got a substantial amount of them. But a lot of libraries, even if they don't separate them out, they will still use the stickers. And that way, if you're just scanning the shelves, walking down an aisle, you can automatically see, oh, mystery. Oh, there's another mystery. Here's a mystery. So it makes it easy for your mystery readers. So there are pros and cons in that it does help your avid mystery readers find mysteries easily. But the con is that it also limits them, that they may not be looking at other books that they might equally be interested in.
I'll step in.
Go
Just
ahead,
a
Beth.
couple ways that we kind of combat that, and we have the benefit of being at a smaller library where we can take that more personalized care with our patrons. Like, once you start getting too big, you might not always have the time or ability to do that. Is when people are like, oh, do you know any good mysteries? Do you know any good whatever? We do some more research. Like, we might direct them to the first person we think of. Oh, maybe you'd like James Patterson, and then send them home with something for that day. And then we'll do more research and attach recommended authors onto their notes on their patron account. And then we will say, like, so-and-so does not like this. I have a patron that I pick all of their books, and I'm like, they do not like this author. Like, do not pick this author, but they love that author. So we do that, and we try to also have just a ton of different displays where we write on the back, so everybody knows, mostly for our staff, but everybody knows like where they can go and pull some more books for replacements, so that we can really like focalize on some different topics and genres.
Good. Samantha, I see someone asked if the session about nonfiction titles was recorded, and it was, and I think you're planning to have that posted maybe next week. I don't recall.
I think Angela's working on it as we speak. I expect it'll be done by the end of the day.
Oh, okay. And that will be in Iowa Learns or YouTube?
Yep. You can find it on Iowa Learns or YouTube.
Okay, so watch for that if you missed it. And then this one is being recorded, so we'll have that up and posted. Give us a couple of weeks to ensure that we can get all of the editing and stuff done for it. So that's all we had for today. Beth and Stacey, thank you so much. I have enjoyed working with you. I love your enthusiasm for mysteries, and I can just imagine the two of you have a fun time working together and talking about the titles you've read, and hopefully you don't give each other spoiler alerts.
We have a time.
It's entertaining at our library for sure.
And thank you all for joining us. Samantha, I think maybe you have some closing comments.
Sure. Yep. We'll take the attendee list from today's webinar and check you off in Iowa Learns. So look for an email probably on Monday inviting you to complete the evaluation, because we have to get our handouts together and all of that as well. So we'll have the slide deck and some handouts for you guys, as well as the evaluation. We are going to look at those really seriously as we consider the future of this series, as Maryann said. So please do let us know if you have enjoyed these collection conversations, what could make them better, what has been really helpful. Also throw in that evaluation. I put it in the chat too and didn't have any takers, but if there are genres that you want to see us explore to build your adult collections that we haven't touched on yet, I have a feeling you have more stuff in your library than we've talked about so far, but let us know what you feel like could use some beefing up in your collection, and we'll see if we continue the series, if we can talk about that. Oh, science fiction. Yes, I'm trying to get my colleague here at the State Library, who I will leave nameless for the moment, to do one on science fiction. I will just say that person does not enjoy being on camera very much, but that they read a lot of science fiction.
Yeah, I've got a few librarians in my district that I know are big sci-fi fans too. I would definitely rely on them.
The graphic novels one for sure. So we want to hear that feedback as well. So thank you for coming today. Look for the invitation to take the evaluation and those handouts. And we hope you found some good titles today and some good tips for your mysteries and thrillers section. So thank you all very much. Thanks to Beth and to Stacey for co-presenting with Maryann today. And everyone enjoy your weekend. Stay warm out there.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.